Hey Paul, are most beginners doing commercial real estate backwards? Spending all their time analyzing deals instead of never picking up the phone?
So a lot of people do get this backwards. When you're first getting started in real estate, most people just spend so much time in research mode. And research mode is often a mechanism for putting off what they're afraid of. What people don't need is more theoretical knowledge. They need more practical knowledge, kind of on the field of battle, so to speak, because that's where you really get the insights that you need for your situation. The analogy I often use is you can't learn how to ride a bike by learning the physics of how a bicycle works. You get on the bike and you feel what it's like to get it right or be wobbly or almost fall over, and you kind of feel the momentum. Same thing happens in any other new skill, especially getting on the phone and calling somebody and figuring out what the brokers are actually going to say to you. What objections are they going to have? What questions are they going to have? You can't train for that entirely. You need to just go out there and do it and kind of get the feel for the call, because what people end up doing is they plan for every potential possible thing that a broker or seller might say. And in reality, they probably won't ever say most of those things. And so we give you an approach, a script, but it's more of an approach. What do you want out of the conversation? And that way you don't have to memorize a word for word script. And then you don't also have the problem of the reality is the other person doesn't know the script, so they may not respond the right way. And so you can adjust to what they say because you know what you want out of the conversation.
When I finally make that first call on a deal, what am I trying to find out from the broker?
Yeah, the first time you call a broker and you're looking at a deal, what you want to find out is if this seller is flexible enough on price or terms that we can make a deal happen. End of story, nonstop, that's all I care about. The seller wants XYZ price and I know I need to come in at a lower price, which is typically for a cash out deal, a 10 to 12% cap rate. So quite a bit higher cap rate or lower price than what most sellers want to sell for. And if they're not negotiable on that point, or they won't be open to owner financing terms, then we just simply cannot help that seller. They want too much, they need too much for the property for whatever reason, and that is not a seller that we're gonna spend a lot of time on. That's the mistake most people make, is they spend so much time talking to sellers and researching deals that you have zero chance of getting under contract at a reasonable price that makes sense for an investor.
As someone brand new to commercial real estate, why do I start with brokers and on-market listings? Why not go straight to the seller?
So the way we approach commercial real estate for most new investors is that we go on market using a service or a website called Crexy.com. And so we're talking directly to brokers, not to the seller. We do that because for new investors, it's a free source of leads, and they end up giving you sources to additional leads going further. We like to talk to brokers because they're expecting our call. We know the seller wants to sell their property. It's just a much easier conversation to have is, hey, I'm interested in this property that's for sale, than calling an off-market property where the property is not listed and you get a hold of the seller and you finally get him on the phone and you say, hey, would you be open to selling? And most people are like, what are you talking about? And of course I'm not open to selling, it's not for sale. It's a much more difficult conversation to have off-market than it is on-market. And so I want to put your training wheels on your bicycle and learn it this way so that it's just much, much easier to get more at-bats, more practice talking to brokers and making offers than you can do off market. Once you graduate beyond that, you can go off market if you want to, but for new investors, we typically find that going on market is the best way to go.
Why don't more beginners just call brokers? What's really stopping them?
A lot of new investors don't call brokers because they're a little bit intimidated by the call. First few calls are going to be rough, to be honest. So what we tell people is go be bad, really bad at 10 calls first to see what it's actually like. And then you can develop what you feel like your script or approach should be. But you have to get those 10 calls out of the way first. You cannot prepare enough for the reality of what the brokers are really going to say to you. And turns out most of them are pretty nice. They're incentivized to make the deal happen because that's how they get paid, as a commission on the transaction. And candidly, they're expecting your call. And you still got to track them down. You still got to leave voicemails. Still have to work a little bit to get them on the phone and have a conversation. But there's not really any reason to be intimidated because they want the deal to happen. All you have to do is present yourself in a halfway reasonable way for them to take you seriously and for you to actually have a deal to evaluate. The real purpose of getting on the call with a broker is to see if their seller is open to how we do business and to get enough information from the broker to make an offer.
What do I say to a broker if I'm brand new and have never done a deal? Should I hide that?
It doesn't matter that you're brand new. In fact, if you are brand new, I would tell them, hey, This is one of my first calls to brokers. I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm really interested in buying properties. I'm working with a group that buys properties all over the country, and they've given me some training on how to find deals here in this market of, fake example, Tulsa, Oklahoma, or wherever you are. And I'm calling in this Oklahoma market for some deals, and I see this listing on here, and I want to go through some questions to see if this is a deal that might make sense for our group to buy this property. Is that something you can help me with? And you don't have to pretend like you're anything other than what you are. Just, hey, I'm a new investor. I have this group that's giving me some training on how to buy properties. They have access to lots of capital. They buy properties all over the country, and I'm focusing in this market. I see this deal in this market. Is you some time to have a conversation about this property. And you can say, I'm brand new, never bought a property in my life. Don't act like you're anything other than you are. We're all so starved for people being real. This whole acting like you're something that you're not. Even if they don't even know it, they subconsciously detect that kind of thing, and they just put up barriers. You don't have to justify your existence to a broker. That's their job, is to take calls. And now they're going to put a little bit of barriers in the way to see if you're a qualified buyer, and we have some scripts and approach to handle that. We tell you that you're working with a group that can buy the properties, and I like Paul Thompson personally is not buying this property. I'm buying it with a group. We have access to investors, and they're looking for deals. Would you be interested in sharing that information with me so I can give you an offer to see if it makes sense for us to work together?
Do you give people an actual script for these calls? Once I'm talking, what am I offering them?
So we have some scripts that we share with people so they can use to call brokers and or sellers. It's kind of like a flow chart. And what we're really interested in is this seller open to doing business with the way we can buy properties? And that's the whole point of the script, is to detect if there's any sort of motivation. And so what we're finding that's working right now in the marketplace is that we're making offers. We often give people 3 offers: 1, cash out, really low discounted purchase price, and then 2, creative financing offers, where we're doing some sort of seller financing or loan subordination type of structure. And we give these 3 offers to the broker to submit to the seller. And what we find is 99 times out of 100, you're not getting an accepted offer on that first offer. But then you're like, I get it. It doesn't make sense for you right now. When it does, call me back. Hey, Mr. Broker, do you have any other deals or sellers that you're working with where this structure might work? What we find is that 3-4 weeks down the line, maybe 6 weeks, maybe 2 months, a lot of these brokers and sellers will come back to you and say, hey, you remember that offer that you gave us? Is that still good? And so what we're doing is we're seeing that a vast majority of our creative financing offers are being accepted during our follow-up. 3 to 6 weeks after we submit our initial offer, we're going back to the broker and saying, hey, we submitted this offer. We'd still like to, we're interested in this property. Has that property sold? How's it been going for you? Have you had any conversations with the seller that might indicate they're open to this offer again? And we're finding more and more, that's when we're finding our deals. And so that's what you need to develop, is you have to first get through the barriers of talking to the broker, putting together the offer, and submitting the offer first. That's what we're trying to teach you how to do, so that you can kind of build this pipeline of potential follow-ups where the real deals happen.
How do I win a conversation with the broker?
It's a really good question. So think about this idea of winning when you're talking to a broker. And I actually wanted to remove that concept of like, I need to win the conversation. We're not trying to win the conversation. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get the broker on our side of the table, right? I guess you want to win them over, but the idea is that we're not trying to like convince them about something that they don't know about. We're trying to provide a solution to their seller that works for them and for us. The better that we have a conversation with the broker and explaining what we do, and you get them on your side of the table, then the better off things go. So we're very rarely trying to argue a point. That's not how you win. You just explain how we do things. And if they say, well, that doesn't work, or they push back and say, that doesn't work for me, here's how it will work for me. And if you would present the seller, maybe we can have some synergies here. And it doesn't always work. I mean, it's just to be real clear. There are a few brokers that just cannot hear what you're trying to say, and they're not going to get a deal closed on their property very soon, unfortunately.
What about a difficult broker? Is it even worth it? How do you handle one?
But yeah, there are some times when the brokers can be difficult, but it's still a good deal. So what we find is the best way to handle a difficult broker, one way is that you call them on being difficult and you say, like, I'm really interested in this property, but you're making this much more difficult. You're not being a very fun dance partner. I need someone who's going to work with me, not against me. Is that something you can figure out, or you have an axe to grind? You just got to win. You can call them out. The other way is to do a little softer and just focus on the merits of your offer and basically kind of ignore their they're static that they give you. They'll give you these objections and you just kind of ignore their objections and you talk about what you were going to talk about, and you kind of have to read the situation. Sometimes, this is a difficult lesson I learned in the corporate world, that there are people who you just have to call them on their shit for them to respect you. I don't know why, but there are just a few people, they will never deal with you respectfully until you say, I'm not doing it this way. And sometimes you got to try that with a broker.
Are you naturally good at those hard conversations, or is that tough for you too?
Yeah, sometimes in business it requires you having difficult conversations. Personally, I avoid conflict naturally. My personality is conflict avoidance, period. I still struggle with this. That's just the reality of dealing with business, is sometimes you're going to have hard conversations with people. If you're going to be in business, you're going to have a difficult conversation that you're going to like, and you're going to have to grow up enough to deal with it. I would say I'm still figuring that out. That's not my strength. I just know that in order to get to the other side of where I want to be, I'm going to have to deal with some situations that aren't always perfectly pleasant. But here's the good news. Most conversations and most business dealings I have are actually very cordial. I would say it's the exception that I'm having difficult conversations with brokers. Most brokers are not jerks. Most of them just want to make a living. What happens sometimes is that some of the brokers have a bit of a chip on their shoulder and they want to kind of mansplain to you about how the operation works. Sometimes you deal with it. Sometimes you say, I know how this works and I don't need an explanation, and this is how I'm going to do this, and you're going to either get in line with it or not. So you just kind of read the situation to figure out if you need to kind of roll with the punches or you got to call their bluff.
I know a lot of brokers ask for proof of funds. How do I handle that conversation?
Probably the most common objection that people come across when they first talk to a broker about a commercial property is they want to know that you're a qualified buyer. And so one of the ways they check to see if you're a qualified buyer is to ask for proof of funds. What they're expecting, I think, is that you're going to give them a screenshot of your statement that says that you have $5 million liquid capital in your bank account. Very few people have that kind of liquid cash sitting around in their accounts to just buy properties. What I tell them is kind of that, is, hey, I'm interested in buying this $5 million property. And let's just be clear, I'm not writing a check for $5 million. I'm going to go and raise capital to buy this property. I'm going to present you an offer that's going to have a couple different options. One of them is going to be a cash out, where it's going to be like a $4 million offer. When I buy that, I'm going to go get a bank loan and I'm going to raise capital from the remaining equity from our investors. So that's how we do business. It's a syndication. It's very common. It's not a big surprise to anybody. I will provide you a proof of funds when the funds are available. Right now, I don't know if I want the property. I'm not even sure if this makes sense for me. I'm not going to present a deal to my investors and try and get a proof of funds letter on a property that I haven't even underwritten yet. So let's just see if we're in the same ballpark. Let me present you an offer, see if we're in the same ballpark, and when the time is right, I'll provide the proof of funds, no problem. But right now, the time's not right. And I would say probably 90-95% of the time that works. Occasionally, they stick to their guns and they say, we will not even present an offer unless you provide this very elaborate document and documentation of the offer. And my answer to that is, if you want me to go through all these hoops to prove that I have the cash ahead of time to make an offer, then what I'm hearing from you is that your seller is accepting my offer right now, right? So why should I go through all this effort if I don't even know the seller is even going to accept my offer? And I find that works pretty well. 99 times out of 100, that's going to solve it. And so there's going to be 1 out of 1,000 deals that you talk to where the broker just will not accept anything but a proof of funds of liquidated capital to even present the offer. If that's the case, I'm probably just going to pass. I'm not going to deal with that broker.
Okay, when it comes to calling brokers, how much fear is real and how much of this is just in my head?
Almost all of it is in your head. And that's why I want you to get on the bike and ride and get some experience riding the bike, because you'll find that 9 times out of 10, person on the other side of the phone that's a broker is not going to come across as a jerk and not going to be rude to you. And if they are, it's more about them than it is about you. I would say the feedback we get from most of our clients is that the conversations are a lot easier than they expect. There's just a couple of times when people will ask about proof of funds or their background that if you don't handle it well, it makes it difficult to move on.
Is there any other way to actually get better at these calls other than to practice?
Yes, and record yourself. Like, one of the best things you can do is record yourself. It's so painful, but you're not going to share it with anybody but yourself. So you can just have a recorder running on your laptop or something while you're making a phone call. QuickTime or something, nothing fancy, because you're not going to do anything with the audio. You're going to delete it afterwards. But you're going to record both sides of the conversation, and you're going to go back and listen to what you said, and you're going to see how you and ah at first, and you're going to get better. You're going to review the tape, kind of like from a sports analogy kind of concept. And then afterwards you can delete it. You're not going to share it with anybody. There's no obligation here for you to try and disclose that you're recording. You're going to record it, delete it. It's only for you. After you record it and you delete it, next time I'm going to do this. And so you'll find yourself getting so much better because you've kind of reviewed the game tape and you'll understand how you can present yourself better next time. And like full disclosure, it's the most painful thing in the world to listen to your own bad phone call. You should almost like get ready to laugh at yourself because it's just hilarious how bad you are at first and how quickly you improve. By just a few reps, you improve so quickly. And then from there, after your first 10, 20 calls, each additional call, you might get just incrementally better, but you're not gonna have these huge jumps in performance, but those first 10 or 20 calls are gonna be pretty rough and you'll improve so quickly. And you have to get past that initial threshold of pain to get into kind of a place where you feel comfortable on the phone.